Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to you wherever you are in the world. Welcome to my channel. My name is Meg and I am a fully qualified yoga teacher, a beautician and a masseuse. And this is my YouTube channel where I talk a lot about yoga, tips and tricks and things that you guys can follow along from home, but also some health and wellness as well. So if that is something that you're interested in, go and hit the subscribe button, and it means that every time that I post onto my channel, you guys get notified so you never miss a class with me. Today, I am going to be talking about the importance of stretching after a workout. It is super important to make sure that you get a stretch in after a workout. I recommend to people, whether they're running, swimming, working out in a gym, doing like an intense vinyasa class, for example, it is really important that you take the time to cool down afterwards. And this gives your body a chance to properly relax, recover, and it will actually help your progression and help you to get better in whatever sport it is that you are working in. I always tell my students that if they're working out in a gym or running or however they are exercising, it's important that you kind of allocate a bit of time at the end of your workout to make sure that you stretch. So if you're doing an hour's workout, set aside 15 minutes to stretch. If you're doing half an hour, set aside sort of 5-10 minutes. It's really important that you get that time in so it gives your muscles a chance to recover. So what actually happens when you're stretching? When you stretch a muscle, not only are you stretching the microfibrils, which are what your muscles are made up of, like these little strings, you're also stretching the fascia that sits around the muscles. So it's really important that we do this because it improves your circulation, it improves your oxygen to the blood, which helps to stop with lactic acid. It also helps to stop with DOMS as well. So if you're someone who wakes up the next day after you've done an intense workout and your muscles are really aching, it could be because you're not stretching enough afterwards. So it's not letting your muscles get rid of any lactic acid in the muscle, and then it kind of builds up and causes that pain the next day. So I always recommend that people do stretch after they have done an intense workout, whatever it is, just to make sure that their muscles the next day are either not as painful or not painful at all. Stretching will also help to bring the heart rate back, and this I think is quite an underrated point, and I don't think a lot of people realize how important this is. When I teach a vinyasa class, I get my students right at the end of the flow to just sit in a child's pose and focus on bringing their breath back and bringing their heart rate back. And this is something that with practice you can do, and it helps with your metabolic rate because it means that you're not putting so much pressure on your heart. So when you then stop at the end of your workout and you stretch, you're stopping, you're relaxing, you're breathing, you're focusing on that stretch. It's almost like you're coming into a moving meditation or a meditation in a pose, and you're then focusing in that moment and on that stretch, on that body part, and it will really help to kind of bring yourself back into the room, back into what's happening, bring the heart rate back, and it will help your heart because it means that it's not having as much strain put on it and it's beating as fast. You can then use this in other areas of your workouts as well. So I feel like I'm quite good at the end of doing a vinyasa flow or ashtanga at being able to bring my breath back and bring my heart rate back because I practiced it so much. So it means if I then go on a run or if I do like a really intense swim or something like that, I can stop at the end of it, and instead of my heart going and it feels almost like you're having a panic attack, I can breathe, I can slow it down, and I can bring myself kind of back into that moment. That enables me to be able to go again. So I can actually do more exercise or high impact exercise because my heart has this chance to stop, take a break, it's okay, and then it goes. So I do think it's quite a good way to help with that as well. So when you've finished your workout, having a stretch brings you back into that moment, gets you to focus on your breathing, focusing on your heart rate, and helps you to improve your metabolic rate. Stretching also keeps your muscles healthy. And I always like, when it comes to yoga, when it comes to any sort of fitness, I do it because I want to age gracefully. So anything that's going to help me in the future to be able to do things like squat down and pick things up. If I fall and my arm catches me or my hand catches me, I want to have strong wrists. I want to be able to get up and off of chairs easily when I get older. So stretching enables you to do this. If you're continually tightening a muscle when you're doing things like working out, when you're lifting weights constantly, you're shortening that muscle. So then when you are creating that flexibility, or when you're stretching, you're bringing that back out again. So not only are you improving the strength, which is obviously going to be important for things like if you bend down to pick something up, you need the strength to be able to bring you back up again. Or if you're sitting on a chair when you get older, you need the strength in your arms, for example, to push you back up. But it also means that you've got that range of motion as well. It means you've got that flexibility so that you don't then pull a muscle as well. When you stretch, it limits the strain on your muscles and your joints. So that's another really good reason to make sure that you get that stretch in at the end of the workout. And it also improves your range of motion. So this means if you're someone that's, for example, doing leg extensions in the gym, and maybe your muscles are so tight that you're struggling to actually do a leg extension, that might be because that your muscle has shortened up and it's not then able to stretch back out again. Things like Achilles heel can be something else that a lot of people get, and it can be because their muscles have tightened up in their ankles or in their calves, and it's kind of pulling on everything, and it means that you haven't got that range of motion anymore, and you haven't got that movement to be able to stretch out and to do whatever exercise you're then trying to do. So this is another reason why stretching is so important. I see this a lot in people who do things like running or like high impact kind of like moving, like tennis or squash, where they're kind of putting a lot of pressure on their ankles. They're constantly in like a squat with their knees bent, and they're constantly shortening that calf muscle. And so it means that when they then need to stretch it out, it can cramp up and it can cause pain, it can cause Achilles heel. So stretching is super good. Even if you're just like in a hang and you're just stretching out your hamstrings, your calves, flexing your feet and getting a stretch through the feet, anything like that is going to be really beneficial, because it will mean that you're then stretching everything out. And I think the most important point for me is that when you stretch, it actually helps you to go further in the gym, and it helps to prevent you from getting hurt. So I'm not going to sit here and say it's going to stop you from getting hurt 100%. Obviously things happen, but it will help to prevent it from happening. And here is why. I always give this analogy when I'm teaching yoga and showing people why flexibility is so important. I give the analogy of 3 different people. One person stretches, one person does a little bit of stretching, the other person doesn't do anything at all. So we're looking at someone who maybe the first person can easily get into the splits, for example, really flexible, really bendy, and has no trouble doing things like getting into the splits. The second person definitely struggles a little bit, can't get into the splits, but has a good range of motion and is able to kind of maybe, for example, touch their toes as they bend forwards, things like that. So they've got a bit of range of motion there. Third person never stretches at all, so struggles to even sit cross-legged, touch their toes, like even things like squatting can be quite painful. If you're in a down dog, really struggling to get your feet or your heels to touch the ground, that kind of level of no stretching. All 3 of these people, let's say they're walking out and they're walking outside and it's icy. They all slip and they all fall into a split position. Obviously, the first person who stretches regularly and can do the splits easily will just fall into a split, because it can happen. You have no control when you slip. You slip into a split, and they're fine. You know, life goes on. Maybe they get a bruise on their knee, they're okay, life goes on. Second person who may not be able to do it will slip into the split, may have a pull muscle, might be in a bit of pain, but can kind of get on with it. You know, it's not the end of the world. The third person could end up tearing a muscle. They could end up doing some serious damage. So this is why I think it is so important. You can't stop yourself from falling, and you never have control of how you're really going to fall in that moment. And we're all going to have times where we do trip, where we do fall on something. I had someone come in for a treatment the other day, because I do massage as well, and she'd fallen because she tripped on a pavement. Like, you really cannot work out, or you're never going to know when you're going to trip and when you're going to fall. And as we get older, our bones get brittler. So it's important that we do things like stretch our muscles, so that it means that when you do fall, that you're less likely to hurt yourself. You're less likely to pull a muscle. When you're in the gym as well, maybe you're going to do something and you lift a leg up, or you do something, and I'm trying to think here, but you're not going to pull a muscle as easily. And therefore it means that when you do pull a muscle, it brings you back in your progress. You're not going to be able to run as fast. You're not going to be able to lift as heavy. So we want to try and prevent these injuries from happening as much as possible. I've now got a playlist that's coming out on my channel that basically goes through different post stretches that you can do after different days at the gym, maybe after running, after Pilates. So you guys can just have a little look. Maybe you've done a leg day at the gym, and instead of having to think, oh, what have I got to do to, like, what can I stretch? How do I do this? You can just have a look at that video, follow it along, and you'll know full well that you're getting the right stretch for you after you've done that workout to help prevent you from getting hurt in the future, to help with rehabilitation and relaxation, and to help with overall muscle health. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. I really hope you learned something as well. Please like and please subscribe. It means the absolute world to me. Have a little look at this playlist, and I hope you enjoy it. Thanks. Bye.